See that little piece right there? That needs to be moved away from the sticker, or you'll just tear out that whole speaker cable. So. Got an iPad 9 here today that charges sometimes, but not always. Port's pretty loose, so we're going to go ahead and replace that. So we've got plenty of rubbing alcohol, 99%, some pry tools. I'm going to get this started with the razor blade, and most importantly, we're going to turn on our heating mat. If you don't have one of these, you're going to need some hot air, hair dryer, hot air gun, something like that. But I'm going to set this to 60 Celsius and give it about 3-4 minutes, and then we can actually work on the screen while it's still on the heating mat, and that should minimize our chances of cracking the digitizer when we remove it. Besides the home button area, these are some other places you want to be really careful not to pry too deep, otherwise you're going to cut through something. Alright, so it's been about 3 minutes. I'm actually going to spin this around because I'm right-handed, and I want to start up here in this corner. And if you're very careful, hopefully, you can get between the glass and the frame. And this definitely feels factory. I do not think this screen has ever been lifted before. So we're going to get some rubbing alcohol and some prying and a lot of patience, because if you put any tension on these, it's super easy to crack these things. I don't love having the screen protector underneath there. You can see once I start to make any amount of progress, I'm going to get rid of this razor blade and use something a little softer. See if we can get underneath here. Alright, and what you want to do is make sure you don't pry past that black line on the edge, because if you do, you'll be pushing adhesive onto the LCD, which is not fun to clean. It's a little tricky up here at the top. You've got a lot more adhesive to work with, so I want something a little heavier. And again, we'll refresh the rubbing alcohol and just repeat that process all the way around. The main thing we have to watch out for is that we have cables over here, and then of course our home button, and we don't want to pry into those. And then you've got a camera and stuff up here at the top that you have to be careful about. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the mat off. So we've got plenty of heat. It starts to cool down. I'll turn it back on again, but we don't need to just keep heating our battery indefinitely while it's on here, but 4 minutes tends to be pretty safe in my experience. Alright, so again, don't want to go inside the black line. So we'll stop before we get there at the top. Alright, so that's looking pretty clean. I'm going to leave this here as a placeholder, and then we'll start working along this bottom edge. And the rubbing alcohol and heat will greatly increase your chances of success without breaking something. Okay, I'll stop short of the home button. Don't really need to get underneath there very much. More alcohol. Alright, so we've got quite a bit of the adhesive worked through. See if this is going to want to open up. And it's kind of sealing itself up here at the top. I should have left another placeholder, but I think we might make it. Okay, so that edge has lifted. Don't want to get your fingers in there too far either, because you'll do the same thing. You'll push the adhesive inside onto the digitizer or the LCD, which is not fun to clean. It just adds a lot to your time investment. More alcohol for my card. Watch out for the camera hardware. And we might be able to start lifting, although I'm going to get some resistance over in this area. I'm going to turn the heat back on. Very carefully. Yeah, I can feel there's still glue underneath here. All right, I think that released over there. This is starting to come up, and we did pick up one of the sensor covers, so this little piece has to go back inside up at the top. I'll show you where that is when we put it together. If we very slowly lift this, I think we've got through the adhesive well enough. I'll go ahead and turn this off, and we'll get this thing apart, starting with the screws, which are usually going to have tape over here and here, which I don't see any, but this does look like an OEM screen, so certainly felt like one taking it apart. All right, 4 screws in the corners. And I'm going to remove this mat and reposition this so you can see a little better. All right, it's got a screw down here. And it looks like I might have pried a little deeper than I should. I haven't done a lot of the 9th generation yet, but we have these little covers here. They have to go up here. There's one on each side here, and then the other one, you can see I took the pad off from behind the camera, but we've got another sensor cover that's going to go back over here when we put it together. So just make sure you don't lose any of that stuff, and definitely check for it before you seal it up. All right, now let's see if they put adhesive underneath the LCD this time. And it feels like they did. So you've got to be really careful. There are strips that go along the edges, and if you go in between here and just lift, you can usually get underneath, because you don't want to flex this thing very much. It has a certain amount of tolerance for that, but not a lot. So don't put any tension on your LCD. And let's see, I need to prop this up. 3 screws for this little cover. We're going to take out the battery screw first. Now, it's not a bad idea to isolate the battery at this point, but as long as you do not lift up the connector and then plug it back in, you can just take out these 3 screws and lift off this panel. Like I said, it's, you know, there's power going to it, or there's voltage available right now. The device is turned off, but if you lift up one of those connectors and then set it down in the wrong position, you can short something out. Usually it's going to be your backlight. So we don't want that to happen. But if we're very careful, and by the way, if you have a dead battery, obviously we're not too worried about that. But once you get these screws out, just remember you can lift, but do not let anything sit back down. So we'll take this out, grab this cable, just unplug it, set this aside. And then we're pretty safe. I am going to go ahead and isolate the battery now, though, just to demonstrate, and because we're going to be working around the home button cable in a second. So we'll get underneath here. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake. Do not pry underneath the battery terminal itself, because there are contacts that are very easy to damage. And what we want to do is just lift this up enough, and we might have to go over on this side also. If you have run into a lot of resistance here, you can come in this way, just work through the adhesive, and now we should be able to get something inside here very easily. And after you do that, the battery's completely disconnected. We're pretty safe. We've got the 2 digitizer cables here, and then our home button has a sticker behind it. So we're going to lift this off, set it aside for later, open up this little gate from the top so it goes this way, and then our home button will be underneath a little rubber adhesive pad here. Move this out of the way for now also, and put that in later, and then very carefully lift that cable away from the frame, and we should be free. Sometimes you'll have some residual adhesive on the edge there, and if you do, you can just take one of these and slide it right down. Again, just don't go all the way to where the cables are. Okay, so you can go all the way down to right about there, and then you don't want to go in very far. You don't want to cut the cables, but we should at this point be able to just kind of lift this away. That's really sticky. Okay, and there is our digitizer. I'm going to set this face down on a clean surface so we can worry a lot less about dust when we put this back together. Okay, so we got a couple things here. One was this little pad that came off the back of the camera. Not a big deal, but we'll set that in place when we put it together. And then, as I pointed out earlier, this little cover came off. That'll happen if you pry a little too deep, and that's just going to sit right on top of there. And we'll double check when we reassemble this and make sure that we have these and that they are in the right position. From here, I think I'm going to get a better close-up because it's going to be hard for you to see. We've got to work around this cable at the bottom. Let's do the screws at the top, though. So we've got 3 screws here. Take this little thing out. And we're going to have 2 screws down here in the port itself. And that's probably a little hard to see, but we've got a couple screws here on either side of the port that need to come out. And the rest of this I'm going to do under the microscope so you can get a better view. What we're going to do is start at the top and begin disconnecting all the cables that are plugged in here. We've got our power button, camera, front camera there, and as we go down the side we're going to disconnect these antenna cables. And when we get over here, we've got to peel back all this tape so that we can get to what's underneath here, unplug both speakers, and then get our charge port away from the frame so that we can get to the fun part. So I'm looking at the front camera right now, and what's interesting is this, which looks like it was left behind during assembly. But we're going to have to disconnect this cable. And then if we peel it back, you'll see we've got another one here that unplugs for the camera, which is also going to be plugged in here. Now I guess we could leave the entire camera attached and just take it out with everything else, but I would prefer to leave it in here because it's like they've glued this thing in place for some unknown reason. Wow, we've even got glue on the connector. It's a little sloppy. I would heat it, but cameras don't typically enjoy a lot of heat. Okay, so we got the camera unplugged. Probably clean this up a little bit before I reinstall it, but that's just not necessary, guys. Not a great idea. Okay, as we go along the motherboard here, we have our main camera. We'll disconnect. And it looks like part of our little cover fell off, so I'm going to set this aside until we're done and ready to seal it up. Okay, unplug this flex cable right down along the edge here. We'll have another one that needs to get disconnected, so peel this tape back, make sure that gate is open, which it is right now, and be careful when you put this back together because it's easy to snag this cable in the process. In fact, if you have something like painter's tape, I recommend you just kind of tape this out of the way. This should make it a lot less likely that you will end up tearing that cable when you're installing the motherboard. So I'm going to just tuck that out of the way for now. Might do the same thing to the speaker cables. Alright, so there's one more right above it here that we need to get. Okay, so we'll peel that back, open up this gate, unplug it. Yeah, now down here where our connectors were, we've got a couple antenna wires that need to be unplugged. One here, and a couple down here. going to take these out from under this. I'm actually going to set this aside as well. Right, and then these are fun because they're stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to grab the first one. Just set it out of the way. This one is connected to a whole bunch of stuff at the bottom, so this one's fun. Okay, so we're going to take all this stuff that's stuck together down here and just kind of peel it. And I'll warn you, you want to be careful because when you get to the speaker connector, this tape sticks to it, you might end up tearing something. So you're going to go to here. See that little piece right there? That needs to be moved away from the sticker, or you'll just tear out that whole speaker cable. So hold on to that. We'll start pulling this across. And you just need to go to right about here, and we've cleared the charge port. So now we're going to open up the speaker connectors, unplug this one, and again, if you want to be safe, you can just take this wire and tape it up here to the frame so that it's out of the way. I found this is an easy way to make sure you don't tear this thing and you don't have to worry about maneuvering around it when you put the port back in. And we are ready for removal. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see what these screws look like. Yeah, so it looks like this is, it is coming a little loose here. Now these screws loosen up, and this is what causes your charge port to break on the inside, because with these not being tightened all the way, your port can just flop around. It puts tension on the cable itself. So we'll come back and put some thread lock in here when we put this together, which would be an easy way for Apple to solve a lot of these problems, but for some reason that's not the way that they're operating on this particular device after what, 9 generations. Kind of weird. Now you may want to use some heat for this part, but usually if we get plenty of rubbing alcohol, again 99%, don't forget, it evaporates quickly and it's not going to harm the components inside here. We need to get underneath this cable, we need to get underneath the board itself, and if you use tons of alcohol when you started, it might have already loosened up a bit, but we don't want to put stress on any of this stuff. So I come in this way first, usually right underneath the cable, so we can just kind of push through here and lift that out, and then hopefully we'll have an easy time going underneath here. Again, if you need to, you can use some heat. You don't want to flex this board a lot because you'll be causing some potential problems on the inside, but as you can see, the alcohol makes this pretty easy. We're going to have some more adhesive up here at the top, so do be careful. Don't start prying until we release this thing all the way across. And I think it's actually pretty loose right now. Just don't want to twist this thing. And it might even be possible to get underneath it from this side. There we go. Okay, so we have another cable that I actually overlooked. So I forgot, this model has 2. So I'll have to go back and edit the video so you don't do what I did. Why is it so dark here? There we go. Alright, so there's one more right above it here that we need to get. Okay, so we'll peel that back, open up this gate, unplug it, and there we go. Right, and I'll try to straighten out this adhesive on the inside before we put this back together, but we need to let it dry because the rubbing alcohol is still inside. But now we can replace our port. On the back side here, we've got a sticker that we need to get out of the way. I'm actually going to start from the front and just peel this thing off completely. We will put that back on after the replacement. Get some flux. We're going to flow in some leaded solder, and then I'm going to use, one quick thing here. There's going to be some glue right down here. So you don't want to put any pressure on this area. Just hold on to this whole bottom part, and we're just going to crack this so that the glue is separated from the cable. That'll make it a lot easier to take this off and judge how much pressure is being required. So we'll put some leaded solder here, flux, and then just run over this with the iron. Alright, now hot air. I'm going to be at 430, set the airflow to 60. And we'll just heat this until they start to melt visibly. And at that point, you should be able to lift the port off without damaging any of these pads. So wait for them to get shiny. Alright, smooth these out. Just a quick note here, this solder that you see on the surface is what's going to hold your charge port onto the logic board. The solder that you put outside does not bond anything. So what we're doing is we're melting to this surface, and I had a couple of people ask me about that, that I don't put a lot of solder on the outside of the flex cable. Well, the solder on the outside of the flex cable doesn't do anything. It's the solder that's on the inside. So you want to make sure you've got nice amount here, just like this. And I find it easier not to put any flux on the port on the inside surface, but rather on the outside. And as you can see, they finally figured out that if you cut out holes for these little squares, it makes it a lot easier to align things. It's brilliant. Good thinking, whoever came up with that one. All right, make sure that stays straight. Now, if you want to, you can add solder on top of this. It's not going to hurt anything, but remember, the solder on the inside is what's holding things together. At the very best, you might be able to just facilitate better flow by having some on the outside, but you don't need a crazy amount here to get this thing to stick. Alright, I think we're good. I'm switching over to 92% rubbing alcohol, because when you clean this up, it's very easy to just eat up the finish with the stronger version. So I don't want to tear up this cable. And if you have any doubts, you can put your multimeter on here and make sure these things are connected to something. Most of them are. There are some OLs here. But if you kind of spot check, you'll usually get a good idea as to whether well, I don't want to go into too much detail, but if you got ZXW, you can check and see what's connected that should and shouldn't be. However, you should be able to tell by looking. All right, let's get our sticker. All right, we are ready, almost ready for reassembly. Now here's one little detail you can probably survive without, but I like to keep things as close to factory as possible. So these little deals are here for a reason. Take this off the old cable, and this will help to prevent you losing contact with your speaker connectors. So I do like to put these back on. It doesn't take that long to do it. You don't have to be perfect. You want them to be kind of right outside of where the connector is. Like that gunk on there. A little tough to do with rubber gloves on. Alright, that should work. And now we can get this thing back into the tablet. Don't forget there's a little sticker here. We're going to peel that off in a minute. I do like to come in from the top first. Again, make sure all of your cables are out of the way. We'll slide this in from here. Start to set it down, and you know, if something gets trapped, sometimes you can pull it through, but you got to be careful because these things are so fragile. I do recommend you tape them if in doubt. Now we've got all this stuff to work around. Antenna wire, this guy here, and got this thing sticking to everything. So if we're sure that we've got this centered, oh, we got an antenna wire underneath here too. Let's get this guy out. Okay, I think we're in the right position. Go ahead and peel this sticker off, and then make sure let's focus. All right, make sure you get this speaker wire out of the way. The other one, if you didn't tape it, it's down inside here. And this should all lay very smooth. And what I'm going to do is add thread lock, not only to the top two screws, but also the ones that go in this direction, because you really don't want these things unwinding. That's just going to be another broken port in the near future. Doesn't take a lot. All right, we'll take these two on the inside. Just dip them in as well. All right, and we can start plugging everything back in. Of course, don't tear the cable in the process of peeling the tape off. All right, at this point, if you haven't already, go ahead and isolate the battery again. All right, so I'm going to clean all of this old adhesive off. put new stuff on there. I won't bore you with that. But the easiest way I've found to do it is to take your blade and just go straight across. Usually that'll leave you with a clean surface. That's what we want. As far as replacing the adhesive goes, you can heat the digitizer in order to peel off any of the tape that remains and carefully scrape the surface of the frame to remove any residual glue. New adhesive is available in pre-cut templates, or you can buy a roll and cut your own to size. I'll put some links in the video description.